Millions of talents are wasted every day in the education system. In a place where kids need help, but they won't ask. They won't ask a question to teachers because of their shyness, right? Because the existence of smarter students in their own class. And this is quote that opposition has decided to side by. So, and we stand against them, and we believe that by grouping students by competency and intelligence, such things will not happen. So, few points of setup. First, the way we group them is by different class levels. In a way, like there are advanced mathematics class, advanced English class. So in that way, we accommodate talents because students, of course, have different talents. For example, students that excel at math, they don't necessarily need to be able to do very good English. And these classes will be explained later will be included in their diploma. Second, we will abolish this system where HR are the key determinant for classes up until high school, because that is because in that way the students doesn't need to transition back or forth. And third, it is the school's job to provide the best, most suitable education for students' growth and for them to produce best graduates. It is not the students' own job to spend waste their childhood away to find for excessive capability. It is the school's job to accommodate towards that. And opposition might argue that about how transition is a very complicated process, but do notice that under the status quo, curriculum change is something that is very commonly done. So is systematical education change. So on to the first point of argumentations. Talents are wasted under the status quo, under the current system of education. Why? First scenario, students are ashamed to ask because the existence of smarter students. These students, second scenario, are the students that get left behind for various reasons. They get left behind, right? And school doesn't cater towards them. They don't send teachers to teach them more hours so that they understand. What schools do is they inflate these students' grades, and these students end up learning very shallow materials. They do not understand what they learn in school. They only pass just because of school's help and just because for exam, but these things don't reflect the student's competence. Third scenario are students that exceed in certain subjects, but they are held back by other students that are left behind, because of course curriculum is a very rigid thing in the status quo, and these students doesn't have any opportunity. The students that excel in certain subjects doesn't have any opportunity to learn, to learn subjects levels that they match with. And what opposition might say is that why don't we these smart students learn outside, right? But remember that we only have 24 hours in our life, right? 8 hours for sleep, 8 hours for school, and another 8 hours for our entertainment, for other things, right? For miscellaneous. These things, learning outside, costs time and money, and we believe that students doesn't need to waste their childhood away, throw their childhood away for the sake of being better at something. It is the school's job to cater towards these talents, to accommodate these talents. But these things, where talents are wasted, doesn't happen under our side, where there are no disparity in between competence in one group, and because of the reasons I've mentioned, and because of the scenarios I mentioned before, And this leads to efficient learning, where it is easy for teachers to cater towards a group of students when these students don't really vary in competence too much, right? It leads to efficient learning, where all these students are in the level that they need to learn, not above them, not below them. On to our second point of argumentation, specialization. Competence and intelligence is how the real world groups people, right? It is not by age. Work doesn't group people by by age, but how they group them is by how competent you are. Just because you're old doesn't mean you'll become a manager, but because you're competent, then you can become a manager. this is the real world. And what students need from education is to get general knowledge on things that they aren't really interested in, but on the things they are interested in, the students need to be able to get specialized or more advanced knowledge from our education system. This is important in order to produce better graduates. And when we move towards these goals of specialization, it is more useful. We produce more competent graduates, which are more useful because, the workforce focuses on specialization, and instead of like age or overall knowledge, right? This is not achieved under side opposition, where everyone learns the same thing at the same pace, and there is no steps taken towards catering for those who are above the level, who have intelligence above the level of the curriculum or below the level of the curriculum. There is no steps taken towards these students, and that is why, under the status quo doesn't produce the most apt to optimal graduates they should have produced. Right. On to our third argument: how social systems still functions under our settings. Right. One argument opposition might say is that how when we put them together based on competence, they will not make friends. But do notice that friends aren't really bound by age, right? And even then, even where age becomes a determining factor, right? The age disparity between 3 grades of like middle and high school, or like, is not a very major disparity to the point you won't connect to these people you are talking to the point you can't make friends with them. So, another way of making friends is our interests, right? This is what is achieved when this is even better under our side, where the interest, where the level, where the materials you will talk about with your friends are something of similar level, of similar interest. And then there is, do notice that how it is not completely a school's job it is not completely a school's job to be a place for students to socialize, and so because of that, social still function even though we put them based on competence. On to the last point of argumentation is about how stigma and segregation will not get worse. In the status quo, the stigma of smart and of the students that are like smarter and less do exist inside of the classroom. Difference is that these students are put together in a classroom whether they have to interact towards one another. But when you put them based on competence and stuff like that, it doesn't mean that there will be more stigma towards that they are smart or they are not as smart. It doesn't mean that they will make it worse. Yes, they do exist, but even then, but it's better because of course these students doesn't have to interact, doesn't necessarily have to excessively interact in a classroom. Whether in a classroom they are not forced to interact with one another, and because of those reasons, we are so proud to propose. Thank you.